Hello everyone, this is Pras from the FPL Wire, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite topic, which is fixtures and wildcard windows and all the other good stuff. And it's a good time to be talking about this stuff because the transfer window is shut in Europe, it's shut in Saudi Arabia as of last night, and so there's better clarity on who's actually around, and specifically Salah. There's also better clarity in terms of the first 4 game weeks on where the teams are landing in terms of which are the players we want to target. For example, now we know that maybe Son is more important than Richarlison, big implications on pricing. There's also better understanding of teams, which are the teams to target versus not. So international break, the first one, is a good time to sort of discuss all this, think about the future, where we're landing. Some people are on wildcard now, so we'll talk about this game week 5 wildcard window as well, and what you could do to sort of position yourselves to be better aligned with the future wildcarders. So, as I always like to do, I always start with the helicopter view of basically what's coming up in the next few weeks. And we've actually got full clarity now because the Champions League, the Europa League draws are in, the Carabao Cup draw is in. So we now know, the travel schedules, we now know the gaps and all the other good stuff. So I'm not going to spend too much time on each of the teams here. This is just to say that, look, Lego Mane has populated this as of last night, and this is absolutely fantastic. Look at things like Man City. So look at the trend with Man City. You see, after Nottingham Forest in game week 6, they have 4 away games in a row. Newcastle away, Wolves away, Leipzig away, Arsenal away. Do we expect rotation? Well, City always do that anyway. But this is unprecedented in terms of the amount of travel they'll need to do for important games, cup games. On the other hand, look at Spurs. From now until game week 12, they don't have a single midweek fixture because they're out of the Carabao Cup. They were not in Europe. So you just basically have Postecoglou sort of bringing in his coaching methods, teaching them the ways, preparing for the fixture. We've seen this in the past. Arsenal did it a couple of years ago really well. Chelsea did it. They actually won the league, just playing weekend after weekend. And so it does produce better results, and especially if you take into account the fact that they will play teams who've been in Europe just after. It helps them in the harder fixtures as well. I mean, look at, for example, when Spurs play Liverpool would have played, the Carabao Cup just before that. Now, they will rotate, but it's just one example where they will have that little advantage. Arsenal, for example, when they play them in game week 6, Arsenal would have just played PSV, and then they have to play Spurs. So good thing in terms of trend. Look at Brighton, very, very congested. Brighton's schedule looks very congested. After Bournemouth at home in game week 6, they play Chelsea away, Villa away, they play Marseille, they play Liverpool. Just after the international break, they play Man City, and then they play Ajax. So very congested. So this all will play into our minds as we think about wildcard windows. But the most important one, again, from Lego Mane, is this hop-on, hop-off chart. And this is great to sort of just visualize where do I want to go, who do I want to come off, and effectively a wildcard gives you a one silver bullet of doing it all at once if you see the right window. So in terms of teams, Man City, good next 3, but they are around the Champions League that I just mentioned. After that, Man City's run is actually terrible. They play Arsenal, Brighton, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, and Villa. The only game between game week 8 and game week 15 where you can say, I expect 6 goals, 7 goals, a City type thrashing is Bournemouth at home, which is game week 11. Now, City can do it against any team, and they're a good team, no doubt. But we're just saying all the other opponents are top 7, top 8, except for Chelsea. So that's Man City. So next 3 good, but after that, you need to have a strategy. There will be people in the community who after game week 8 will look to sell Haaland. I'm not one of them. I'm not going to discuss it, but I don't think it's the worst idea in the world where you say I'm going to keep one premium structure, I'm going to change Haaland to a Salah, And that's the point where Salah also embarks upon a great run where he plays Everton, Nottingham Forest, Luton, Brentford, Fulham, Sheffield United in the 6 of the next 7. It works, but I'm of the camp that you can do both. You can have Salah and Haaland, and that would be one big plus of wildcarding then. Or if you're wildcarding before, you plan for it. So that stands out in terms of City and Liverpool. Arsenal, I think Arsenal a little bit middling now. I mean, they've got a good fixture against Everton away. They've got a great fixture, Bournemouth away in Gameweek 7. So 2 of the next 3 very good, but 3 of the next 5 are not ideal. Spurs at home, it's okay. It's a bit like Man United, right? I mean, they scored 3 goals, but ultimately Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard all got 1 return. They could end up with 1 or none. So these are not games where you can expect a triple return kind of thing. So Spurs at home, Man City at home, Chelsea away, those are okay, but not ideal. And then even in Game Week 11, they play Newcastle away. So Arsenal is one team that will need to be managed or ignored. And people will fall in different camps on how to sort of navigate that. Man United, interesting one. Their next 5 are actually very good. And I'm counting Brighton as a very good fixture from an attacking perspective. So good one. Then Burnley, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United. This will be a big part in terms of what your team looks like. If you're sitting on double Man United midfield, patience. I mean, these 5 fixtures are as good as they get in terms of attacking output. So maybe a later wildcard makes more sense for you than someone else who's either not got them or doesn't have faith in them. Either way, it's your call, it's your team, and it's your perception of particular teams. Newcastle, very, very good next 6 game weeks, both from an attacking point of view and a defensive point of view. Brentford, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Wolves. So up until game week 10, if you're sitting on Trippier, if you're sitting on a Newcastle defender, you have an edge over many others who don't yet have that. So Newcastle a team to target. And I already talked about Liverpool, and their fixture run from game week 8 is very good. Villa is an interesting one. Look at Villa after game week 8 as well. You've got Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham. Especially that Luton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham. It's exactly or very similar to this Chelsea pit where people sort of realize that we need more Chelsea after the Luton game. Here, we want to get on the Villa guys before the Luton game. So that's on Villa. Spurs. Now, Spurs is a big topic in the community. They're doing really well. Some managers may have the view that they're slightly overperforming. They're scoring slightly more number of goals than they should. But there is no denying that this team is on the up. There's no denying that if Son plays up top, he's an exciting asset. I'm still on the fence if he's as exciting or equally exciting or more exciting than a Saka or a Bruno or other players of that price bracket who've basically shown what they can do over a longer period. But he's a great pick, and we need to think about how our teams need to shape up to have a Son, to have Son and Maddison, or some other combination. But Spurs have sort of put their hand up. So in terms of fixtures, Sheffield United at home is a captainable fixture, great fixture. But after this, playing Arsenal away, not easy. Playing Liverpool at home, you could argue if it's easy or not for attackers, but I just think those 2 fixtures are not ones where I will confidently say that Son's going to outscore a Bruno if he plays Burnley and Crystal Palace in those 2 fixtures. So something to think about. People will say, I need to have Son, and they'll just go for it. But I think you need to have your wildcard window a little bit in mind and think about, could you wait until game week 8 when they play Luton to get 1 or 2 Spurs guys, and then you basically go from there. And then lastly, Chelsea are good until game week 8. Now, again, we can have divergent views in terms of what you feel about Chelsea. You could feel excellent fixtures until game week 8. I'm going to stay patient. Or you could say, I'm ditching these guys. I've had enough. I don't want Chelsea, and I think they're better teams to target. All fine. My particular view is, if you have them, be patient. You got them for a reason. They did well against Luton, didn't do well against Nottingham Forest. Were unlucky not to do better against Nottingham Forest, at least from an underlying data perspective. Staying patient is an approach. So, having just had a very high-level discussion on fixtures, let's talk about how we navigate this to best maximize getting these easier fixtures for our players. So the first window is obviously game week 5, which is what we're sitting in right now during the international break. A lot of people I've seen have pulled the trigger for the wildcard. And I think there's merits to this window for reasons actually that are different than I'm seeing in the community. The reasons why people are playing the wild card is because they're getting Spurs FOMO, or they've lost patience with Chelsea, or they've lost patience with Man United. I think the reasons for this wildcard window is to jump on good teams, good players that other people don't have. And in this category is Aston Villa. A lot of people sold Watkins and got to Jackson, or any other, even Alvarez. A lot of people don't have Diaby. A lot of people don't have a defender. Some have cash, but not a lot. So I think getting to a Villa before anybody else, ahead of the run, which puts them top of the fixture ticker, has merits. Now, somebody who's not wildcarding now can say, guys, I mean, Crystal Palace at home, Chelsea away, Brighton at home, I can live without that. I'll take the fixture run after that. Also fair enough. Let's get to Liverpool, second highest in the fixture ticker. We all know the blind spot or the inability to get to a Salah and how that sort of hamstrings your team. But I think what changes is now you understand who are the enablers that go alongside Salah. So when we'll talk about a team in the future game weeks with the wild card, I'm happy to have a discussion on who do we think we're sacrificing to get to a Salah and Haaland team. I don't think there's too many. So getting to a Liverpool earlier is an advantage. Now, you'll see in my wildcard draft that I've proposed, I've actually gone with no Liverpool in a wildcard 5 setup, only because I think there's other teams that you can target in the short term, and then by game week 8 or 9, you can jump on Salah. But I think there's opportunities. If you wanted to do it, if you wanted to go for a player, it could be Darwin, could be Salah, could be Diaz. It's high risk, but also high return. With Salah, it's low risk, but it's also taking up funds, which was the original logic why people didn't go for him. But more on Liverpool later. Newcastle is a big one. I think you can wildcard today and get to a Trippier and maybe even a second Newcastle defender if you are of the belief that Newcastle are still a good team and a good defense. I certainly am. I think when you play difficult teams like Man City, like Brighton, it's, you cannot expect a great defensive performance in terms of clean sheets. But these guys have shown that their underlying data is still very, very good. So there's no reason to say that they've suddenly become a bad team, or just because they play in Europe, they'll stop keeping clean sheets. I still believe that's an edge if you wildcard it now. But if you don't believe that, that's also okay. And then, of course, you can get to Spurs. Let's say you don't have any Spurs at the moment and getting to Sun is slightly trickier. You can get to Spurs now, and Spurs are fourth on the ticker. So even though they play Arsenal and Liverpool in 6 and 7, they then play Luton, they play Fulham, worth targeting for those fixtures. So that would be the crux of a wildcard team and how I would think about it. But I would be balanced about Spurs. The things I talked about in terms of Arsenal and Liverpool, I don't want to overcommit because I feel in 6 and 7, there's other midfielders around Maddison's price that are slightly better. So let's look at my proposed draft. Now, one thing to say is there are so many good players that you could make a wildcard 5 draft with about 9 different players and it would still be a good draft. So this is less about individual players. This is about my view of if I was to build a wildcard team, how I would think about it. And you can use that as a data point if you're wildcarding, not necessarily say this is the best wildcard team. That's not my intention. So why I've gone for certain picks. So let's talk about Leno and Areola. I think these are the 2 picks that will be popular on a wildcard. This is a long-term play only because you can just forget about Leno after 4 game weeks. So if we go back to the fixture ticker, if you look at Leno plays Luton at home, Crystal Palace away, Chelsea and Sheffield United. The week he plays Chelsea, Areola plays Sheffield United. So basically in the next 4 game weeks, you've got a nice Luton, Crystal Palace, Sheffield United as your 4. And then after game week 9, you'll see in my fixture ticker beyond that, West Ham are top or second of the fixture ticker anyway. So you just stick with Areola and you keep him. One could even say, don't waste money on Leno. Keep your 0.5 in check. Get a 4.0 keeper. Turner may lose his place, but keep him anyway. Maybe he doesn't. And so that's also viable. So that would be my thoughts on keepers. You could go for Flecken because Flecken has good fixtures as well. But I don't love it in the sense of whenever Flecken has a good fixture, like when he plays Nottingham Forest, that's also when Areola plays Sheffield United. So it's not the best rotation, but if you were to say, I don't really rotate, I want 2 good keepers, I think Flecken and Areola are good as well. So that's on the keepers. I think the defense, where where you'll see this theme across all of my wildcard drafts is get a good defense and don't worry about it. We got very unlucky early season with injuries in defense. So if we get 4 or 5 good defenders for the long term, then don't worry about defense. I think all the juice this year we've seen is in hopping on and off these midfielders when they play these easier teams, because I think this is FPL this year. We have 6 or 7 bad teams, we have 6 or 7 good teams, and we have talisman in these good teams where you can just hop on and off. If Son plays Luton, get Son. If Bruno plays Luton, get Bruno. If Saka plays Sheffield United, get Saka. And you need to have that flexibility. So you don't need to chase upside in Udogi to Zinchenko to somebody else. Just stick with that backline. So that's my approach here, where, as I said, Villa is top of the ticker, Cash is fit. Now, Moreno is back. Moreno, for me, is better than Cash as an option because he will do what Dean is doing right now, where it's always the attacking side. Villa always love to attack as the left back from defense. So Moreno would be my pick, but I've gone for Cash here as a proxy. We'll need to find 0.4 more if Moreno is completely fit by the time you're wildcarding, which in Game Week 5 you are not, so you'll have to go with Cash. I've kept Chilwell because I still think you shouldn't sort of completely give up on Chelsea. Chelsea have shown some signs. The guy is playing left wing, so keep him. But I think he would be a short-term stay in my team. He would be one good example of I'm not committing completely on removing everything that I've learned so far, and I'm only going for a long-term pick. Chilwell is a short-term pick for the next 3-4 game weeks, and then you move him on to somebody like an Estupinian who has good fixtures from game week 10 onwards. So that would be one transfer where I would recommend making. Trippier is the edge that I talked about, so double Newcastle defense. Botman, you wouldn't have to play every week, but he's there. He may even drop in price, so a little bit of a hint, so don't get him in your team yet. And Udogi has shown great signs. I think Porro is great as well, but a little bit of a rotation threat. But I like Udogi. It looks to be nailed, and you get your Spurs defender in. And as I've shown, they were 4th in the ticker, so you can play him anytime. So with this, I think apart from Chilwell, and you need to downgrade Trippier to get money for Salah later, that's the overall plan. You're sort of set in your defense. And let me talk about your midfield. You've got Saka, Mbeumo, Son, Bruno, and Diaby. So what I've done here is there's 4 penalty takers. Well, we hope Son is a penalty taker, Bruno is, Mbeumo is, and Saka is. So I've still not given up hope in a Bruno or a Saka. And what I've said is I'm still going to target these good fixtures that these guys have in the next 3-4. And then I can look to move them on. So again, I keep repeating, for me, Game Week 5 is not a knee-jerk wildcard. Do it being sensible, and that's how I would play it if I was to do it. So I have Son in place. I have not gone for Maddison for exactly that reason. Because he plays Arsenal away in Liverpool, I can get him after. When he plays Luton, Saka plays Man City, easy, Saka to Maddison. So that's how I would try to do it. And how do you get Salah? I would eventually look to upgrade Bruno by downgrading Trippier and Chilwell. Or you can downgrade Son. I mean, you will see in my wildcard draft for 10, I don't have Son. I think the great run for Spurs is until game week 10, game week 9, and game week 10 and beyond, you can probably live without Son because other players have better fixtures. So you could upgrade Son to a Salah as well by getting, as I said, an Estupinian and a cheaper defender for Trippier and Chilwell. So that would be my long-term setup. And in attack, this team is going to stay. I have Haaland and Watkins, nothing else. The only player that can make a shout and join this setup is Darwin Núñez. If he continues to play in the next couple of weeks, he will be my 3rd striker. But I think the first 2 strikers are Haaland and Watkins, and that does not change. That's wildcard 5. So I'm trying to balance out short-term picks, long-term picks, how you align yourselves to future wildcards by getting Salah at the right time, by getting Maddison, by getting double Spurs at the right time, but also not knee-jerking. You could even, by the way, instead of Diaby, you can, if you wanted even a little bit more short-term horizon, you can go for a Sterling. So you say, I want still Chilwell and Sterling for these good fixtures, and I'll get Diaby a little bit later. Also fine. So, and obviously budget, if it comes within budget. Let's go to Game Week 8. So Game Week 8 is, for me, the wildcard that is actually a little bit more panic wildcard. Because in this wildcard, what you've said is, I need Spurs. And let's say you're trying to be patient and you're saying, I don't want to get Spurs now, even though they play Sheffield United. They have 2 difficult fixtures. This wildcard in 8 says, I have made a mistake. I love Spurs. I have to wildcard for Spurs. They're playing Luton at home. I don't have enough transfers to even get them. And you're also saying, I hate Man United. I've seen them. They're struggling. They're not producing the goods. They're not going to come third this year. They're going to be 7th. Fine. And I hate Chelsea. So, love Spurs, hate Man United, hate Chelsea. If you're in this camp today, I would say wait till game week 8. Just give them a little bit more time. And then in game week 8, pull the wild card. Because what this does is, number one, it gets you your triple Spurs. So if I read this team, Areola and Turner, again, this will be a theme throughout. I think after game week 8 onwards, you just stick with Areola. There's no reason to go for any other keeper. He's cheap, he's good, and West Ham have good fixtures. No need to overthink it. Even if Turner's lost his spot, get another 4.0 keeper. I think you can risk it with Areola for the foreseeable. So as I said, you get your 3 Spurs in who play Luton, then they play Fulham at home. So you're bang in terms of where you want to spend the money. Game week 8, you get Salah. You don't have to do the surgery that I talked about in the game week 5 wildcard where you're downgrading Chilwell, you're downgrading Trippier. Just don't get Chilwell. Chelsea's fixtures are done. And you get instead of Trippier, you just get Burn. Instead of Chilwell, you just get Zinchenko, and all of that helps you upgrade your Bruno to Salah, and instead of Saka, here you have Maddison. So as you can see, I've literally done a walkthrough of that Game Week 5 wildcard team to this team, which you can get to in Game Week 8. Now, every wildcard, the advantage is not just wildcard and beyond, the advantage is also to dead end. And in this wildcard, the other advantage is you dead end to the double game week, which is Game Week 7. So let's say you're not happy with Chelsea, which was the crux of this whole thing. You can do Jackson to Morris as a dead end, and then you have a double game week striker as well. So it has the advantage of dead ending one player. It has the advantage of kicking out your Man United players who you don't like, your Chelsea players who you don't like. You can kick out your Arsenal players who play Man City, and you get all these guys with good fixtures. So Game Week 8 is a good run. But I will come to why I think Game Week 9 or 10 could be slightly better, but I think there's nothing wrong with 8. I would urge people, and I've spent time to discuss 8, 9, and 10 separately, because I think it will fit differently for different people. For different play styles, for different perceptions of different teams, you can think about 8, 9, or 10, and they're slightly different and important windows, not just because of the dead end, but because of the teams you get going forward. So with this team, I think you're set up fairly reasonably long term. I mean, I don't want to say too long term because eventually you'll need to get Bruno back. Eventually you'll want to have Saka for some of the fixtures. But other than that, or you can get some Brighton for Game Week 10. So Mbumo to a Mitoma. That would be my view of sort of how this team goes forward. That would be Game Week 8. Let's get to Game Week 9. Now, before the season started, this was the window that everybody sort of highlighted, myself included, as the window where most people will wildcard. And it made sense because Liverpool become top of the ticker, Chelsea become bottom. We were not going with Salah or Trent. We were going with double, triple Chelsea. So it just felt like easy. Just move these guys around. Man City become lower, so it made reasonable sense. And even Brighton start to sort of push up. I think this is still a decent window. It'll give you 2 weeks to think about your transfers. It gives you some international break insurance. And people who are looking to wildcard in 8, they could just say, look, I didn't need to dead end to Morris. I don't need that. I was okay with Jackson. What I could do is I could dead end my Arsenal players. So you have Saka, let's say. I can dead end him to a Maddison. That's an easy dead end because Maddison plays Luton, whereas Saka plays Man City. I have an Mbumo. Mbumo is away to Man United. Now, again, we can argue if that's an easy or a difficult fixture. I can dead end him to somebody else. Maybe if you have funds in the bank, to a Son. So there are options where you can dead end here as well, and then get to a 9 with a clean slate, and then you pick your players. People love Game Week 9 window because 8 game weeks is a good data set. You've now understood which teams are great. Are Spurs overperforming, or are Spurs just incredible? Are Man United underperforming, or they're just rubbish? and so on and so forth. Are Newcastle defense actually legitimate? Should I have double defense or not? So you could wait one more week instead of 8 and you go to 9. And so that's what this gets you. What is the advantage of doing it? Let's look at a draft and how that draft is different. So again, Areola and Turner, you just stick with the West Ham defense and you keep that. I've gone here for a similar backline. I think the only change is Anderson instead of who did I have in game week 8 wildcard? Let's have a look. I had double Newcastle defense in Burn. Here I've gone for Anderson. I don't know why. I think they rotate a little bit better as well if you wanted to go for one and not both. So let's say after that data, Newcastle's run in terms of the best fixtures, defensive fixtures, is coming to an end, and Crystal Palace's is good. So I just felt from the fixture ticker that Anderson could work well as well, but nothing much in it. Estupinian has now come into the draft, which he wasn't. So what I've done is I've taken out Udogi and I've changed him to an Estupinian, because as you get closer to game week 10, Brighton's fixtures get better and better and better. So after they have played their difficult fixture against Man City in game week 9, so in this setup, I would bench Estupinian in game week 9 and have him ready for game week 10. That's what it gives me in terms of pushing it out a little bit more. The theme of having Cash, Diaby and Watkins remains. The theme of having Salah remains. Mbumo still in there because Mbumo has a couple of good fixtures left. I've got Son in there. And I'm not even talking about Haaland in these drafts because obviously he's in there. And Zinchenko's in there because actually Arsenal's fixtures are decent. Honestly, even Gabriel could be decent if he continues to play, and we think that he's long-term now back in the team for all the reasons we wanted him in game week 1. So this would be my game week 9 wildcard team, and it's just subtly different from the other teams, especially the game week 8. And as you can see now, we've completely gotten rid of Man United. We've completely gotten rid of Chelsea, almost completely gotten rid of Arsenal, and we've backed, Liverpool. We're back on Spurs, but again, we're cautious. I've not doubled up on Spurs, and I'll talk about why. Because the fact is that after game week 9, they play Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home, Wolves away, Villa, and then Man City. They're okay. They're not bad. You can still argue that Spurs is great, but I still say look at some of the other teams that have fixtures then. Arsenal play Sheffield United at home and Burnley at home in that same period. Man United actually have, again, good fixture run. So after that, they play Sheffield, they have Fulham away and Luton at home in that period. So for me, Son is great, but I would like to use that spot going forward for hopping on when Bruno and Saka have good fixtures as well. So that would be my thinking here. Bowen is in the team here, looking good. I mean, this could be Kudus if he's looking amazing and he's playing up top. But I thought it's a good opportunity if you wanted to hop on to West Ham as well. Let's go to game week 10. So game week 10 is an interesting one. This has popped up after Spurs has done so well, and Man United, people have started to become twitchy on Man United. So what I'm presenting here is, again, the hop-on, hop-off table by Legomane. But I've highlighted here game week 9. And game week 9 is interesting because actually if you are of a similar setup to me, then you will realize that Man United still have a good fixture. So let's say you're still on Bruno and Rashford, maybe even one of them. He still plays Sheffield United away. Let's say you are on Spurs and you've got one Spurs and you dead-ended, Saka to a Maddison, and you ended up with Son as well. He still has Fulham at home. So you don't want to sort of not have Maddison for Fulham. You want to have the double up. You want Mbumo as well because he plays Burnley at home. And in terms of what you're missing out on Villa playing West Ham at home, which is a miss. And you're missing out on Liverpool playing Everton at home. The fact of the matter is, when I look at my team, all my team, I can sort of dead-end it to having double Spurs midfield of Maddison and Son, because I will take out Saka and I will take out Sterling. I can dead-end Jackson to an Awani, who plays Luton at home. And so my Game Week 9 team looks pretty good. And I don't need to do a lot to wildcard by Game Week 9. And so the thinking is, why not just wildcard in Game Week 10? And the Game Week 10 wildcard is a little bit different to Game Week 9 because now I don't have any Spurs. Now, sitting here today, it sounds really stupid not to have any Spurs given how well they're doing. But as I said, after they have played Luton and Fulham, Spurs don't have the best run, and I feel there's other players who I want to target that could have better fixtures. So let's talk about no change in goalkeepers. Let's talk about the defense. I don't think I've changed much here in defense again. Burn is back. I don't know why Burn and Anderson are switching. But you see, basically the theme would be I'll have an Arsenal defender, I'll have a Stupinian, I'll have a Newcastle defender, and I'll have a Villa defender. 4 great picks. And then a fifth one, which can be anything, can be a rotatable one, could be even a cheapo if you're out of funds. Midfield is where it's interesting, where I've now gone for Mitoma. Mbeumo out. Mbumo's out because Mbeumo has played his very, very good fixtures, as you can see here. You've basically taken all the juice out of Mbeumo because he's played your Everton at home, Nottingham Forest away, Man United away, Burnley at home by game week 9. And then after that, he has Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal in the next 4. I'd rather have, at that point, Mitoma or March, who plays Fulham, Everton, Sheffield United at home, and Nottingham Forest. So I see a nice window where I can switch my 6.5s because I'm not married to any player in this game apart from Haaland. So I'm happy to lose value in him, and I'm happy to get rid of Mbeumo. So that was why Mbeumo to Mitoma switch has happened here. Why have I lost the 2 Spurs guys? Let's look at Saka and Luis Diaz. So, by the way, Luis Diaz can be Nunes and can also be Trent. I've just used that slot as a second Liverpool upside. So depending on where things land out, I mean, I would love that to be Darwin Nunes. I don't think it will be. I would love it to be Jota. I would love it to be Diaz, or it could be Trent. But that would be the setup where here, let's look again in terms of what I would get with Saka. With Saka, after game week 9, so in game week 10, he plays Sheffield United at home. He plays Newcastle away, but then he plays Burnley at home, Brentford away, Wolves at home, and Luton. That is a run I'm happy to have Saka for. If I was really, really tempted and I wanted to get rid of Saka at some point, I could even switch him to a Bruno Fernandes because at the same time, Man United play Fulham away, Luton at home, and Everton. So you could make a case and say you could have both of them. I just can't fit both of them. Maybe I can have him instead of Diaz, but then look who Liverpool play. Liverpool play Nottingham Forest at home, Luton away, Brentford at home. They play Man City. I think I'll lose them by then. Then they play Fulham, Sheffield United, and Crystal Palace. So firstly, this is the case of why people are going for Salah. This run of 6 fixtures out of 7 is absolutely incredible. But there is merit to going for a second one as well. So this is why in the Game Week 10 wildcard, I've sacrificed a Son. But I know I can get Son when I want. And probably, in my plan, it would be after I lose Salah. I could get Son and go back to this double structure of 2 8 to 9 million mids. So that's here the draft where I retain my triple Villa. I get double Liverpool. I now have double Brighton, which many may not have. I have double Newcastle defense, and I still have that upside slot of Saka or Bruno or someone else. And if you're off the mind, then keep Son instead of them. That's not a problem. So at the moment, I think for certain teams, this could work where they want to retain their double Man United attack. They want to retain their Chelsea players, and they can find a path where they can get to a good Game Week 9 team. As I mentioned, in my Game Week 9 team, I will have Son, I'll have Maddison, I'll have Awoniyi, I'll have all the other good players, and my Man United players have a good fixture. My Mbeumo has a good fixture, and defense has a good fixture. So this would be my inclination at the moment. But then I'm also open to Game Week 8. So I have now sort of in my mind come Game Week 10, Game Week 8, then Game Week 9. Let's go to then what happens after. So after Game Week 10, you have, let's go back to hop on, hop off. You have good fixtures for various teams, but there's no big swing. I mean, the only other big swing you can say is, let's say you were a kind of manager who decided to sell Haaland for Salah, which I talked about. You could get him back by Game Week 16. So you could wildcard in Game Week 16 when Haaland plays Luton and basically avoid Haaland for Arsenal, Brighton, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, and Villa. I repeat, I'm not that manager, and many of those listening will not be that manager, but there are some. So there could be a window for them to basically say, I'm selling Haaland. Whenever I feel I'm panicked, I will play the wildcard. You could be a manager who says, I'm going to play, I'm going to not worry about it. Just like you did the maths of Game Week 9, I could keep getting good players for Game Week 10, for 11, 12, even if it requires a hit or two, and I will wildcard when I want to wildcard later on. That's all absolutely fine. That's how people play. And for me, anchoring a window helps me. For example, now that I've anchored Game Week 10, I know that I don't need to rush on Madison and Son this week. I can be patient. I don't need to sell Rashford and Bruno. In fact, I will sell Saka before I sell Rashford and Bruno, because I know that I want Rashford and Bruno for Game Week 9, whereas I don't need Saka for Game Week 9. So he would be the one that makes way. So that's at least the way I think about it. So anchoring a wildcard helps me with those aspects. So after Game Week 10, you decide when is a good window for you. It could be to get Haaland back. It could be to get Salah if you have not and you think you missed the boat. It could be for anything else. Brighton's run is great as well, like I mentioned. Then there is a last window that everyone has also talked about, which is Game Week 19. So for Game Week 19, I need to first explain what is actually happening with Man City. So in Game Week 19, well, from December 12th to December 22nd is the World Club Cup, and Man City joined that from the semi-final stage onwards. So they will not be busy from the 12th to the 22nd. And I think they play Urawa Reds from Japan or Club Lyon from Mexico. So what happens is they will miss their Game Week 18, and that will be a blank because that's when the semi-final and the final will happen. They should be back for Game Week 19, and that fixture, which is against Brentford, could be rescheduled as early as Game Week 20, which is, it could be a double game week which includes Sheffield United and Brentford both at home. So there is a thought process which says Man City's fixtures before the blank are Luton at home, Luton away, Crystal Palace at home, then a blank, then Everton away, and Sheffield United at home. So 4 of these 5s are absolutely incredible high ceiling fixtures where you could get a triple attack if you really wanted to. The counter to this is look at the dates. So what we've set up here is the dates of when they have these fixtures and what happens. So 9th of December is when they'll play Luton. 12th or 13th, they'll have their final Champions League round. So you could get lucky and they're already qualified and they play kids in that final Champions League round. You're in luck. But let's say they're not and they still are playing for the Champions League final round and they need a result or they need a draw or they can't lose. That's an important game. 16th of December, when they play Crystal Palace, again in the midweek, they play the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup. Now, assumption being they're still in the Carabao Cup, which usually they tend to be. They don't tend to heavily rotate in the Carabao Cup either. So again, a midweek game. Then you have the 23rd of December where they are in Saudi Arabia. That's where the Super Cup is, or the Club World Cup is being held. They come home. It's Christmas. And on Boxing Day or around that, could be 26, 27, they play Everton away. And then on the 30th, they play Sheffield United. And if the double game week happens, that second fixture will be another 3-4 days away, which will be against Brentford at home. So this basically, you could have the view that I can jump on these players, sell them ahead of the blank in 18, and then wildcard in 19, get them all back. A couple of problems with that. Problem number 1, Game Week 18 is finishing on Christmas Eve. And then you have Christmas Day, and then the deadline for Game Week 19 is Boxing Day. So you literally have Christmas Day and Boxing Day morning to make your wildcard team. Second, there's a lot of rotation in Game Week 19, Game Week 20 because of this whole, Christmas holidays, breaks, the games bunched in. So it's not the easiest to build one. And especially if you're doing it to pick City players, it's already difficult to pick which City players start. So it's a little bit, it has a lot of upside, but it also is not as easy as said, where you can just, let's say people would think I'll get Foden, Alvarez and Haaland for Luton and Crystal Palace, sell them all and then get them all back for Game Week 19. In theory it works, but practically I'm not very sure how it will work. And again, for those of us who are not wildcarding, what this means is don't sell Haaland, because you will not have the opportunity to sell, buy back. What you should do is keep Haaland, bench him, and have the ability to buy 1 or 2 more City players after Game Week 18's blank. So you are not missing out on this double, which could happen, as I said, as early as Game Week 20. And that double is absolutely incredible. Now, just a word on the double. That double doesn't have to be Game Week 20. It is a free midweek, but it could be in Game Week 21. Let's say if they're not in the Carabao Cup semi-final, or their third round FA Cup doesn't need a replay. They could play that in Game Week 21, so that will be a double game week instead. Or it could happen in Game Week 24 or 25, where when they reach the knockouts, not every team plays every week. So you have a 1 week where, let's say, the other 2 teams will play the knockout, so City could play then. But that's not really preferred. So in my view, it's quite likely that it's going to be Game Week 20. So something to think about. The last day that you can play it is, in fact, the 30th of December. So you don't have to play it in 19. You can even play it leading up to Game Week 20. But you might as well play it in 19 and get the City guys then. So Game Week 19 is the other window that people should think about. But originally I did really try that maybe I can get to it and plan it. But there aren't enough glue guys this year for me to just say, I am happy with 7 of my players, and these 4 I can just rotate around. I can change 10 of my players. Apart from Haaland, I don't think there's a single player in my team that I cannot say with conviction that I'm happy to lose. And that makes me think that using it to get the best fixtures, the easiest fixtures, is the way forward. So that's why I'll probably do 8, 9, or 10. And that's all that I had for you guys today. I haven't actually, in my thought process, I haven't talked about, the fact that, Scout is our sponsor. So, you can sign up for membership there. I haven't talked about the fact that, it would be great if you sign up to our Patreon, all of that good stuff. Look, if you support us, please like the video. I love doing this content, this type of content, and, you'll get a lot more of that. We'll be back with the full podcast, which we do on a weekly basis on Tuesday with Zofar and Pranil Lateriser. And we'll continue to sort of do our best and provide the best quality content that we can. Meanwhile, enjoy the rest of your international break, and happy planning.